Before you start identifying your needs within this category of the stability wheel, you're going to want to check out this introductory video so that you have a general understanding of what we're doing here. For additional support completing the stability wheel, I'm not going to be responding to the comments in these YouTube videos, but you can book a one-on-one session with me on my website. There's a link in the description, or you could check out the Love and Liberation Network. We are an online community of people developing secure attachment while learning how to remove hierarchies from our relationships. Every month we focus on one category of the stability wheel. It gives us just enough time to be able to identify our needs and figure out the structures that we need to implement our needs into our life so our life feels integrated and easeful. We celebrate each other, we help each other brainstorm ideas. If you're looking for that kind of support, there's also a link in the description. In this video, we're going to focus on helping you identify your sexual needs. Yay! Sex can be such a hard topic to talk about because there's so much shame around it, especially for folks who are socialized female or who are treated female. It's a sad reality, but I'm here to help you identify your sexual needs. Yay, sex positivity. The first place we're gonna look is masturbation. It does not matter if you are dating someone, if you're dating no one. In my experience, masturbation has been a way for me to actually consciously connect with my body. And I've been down such a deep journey of unpacking the shame and all of the layers through my queerness, through my transness, through being socialized female. There's so much to unpack around sexual shame. I have been in this journey. I've been deep into it. And what I have learned along my journey is that the key to having amazing sex that feels great, that feels nourishing, that feels revitalizing, it starts with your relationship with yourself. It's the same concept as secure attachment. If you're trying to develop secure attachment in your relationships, you must first feel secure in your relationship with yourself. So you must have a relationship with your body in order to give feedback to your partners. Because a lot of us are trained to just especially folks who are socialized female, a lot of us are trained in our sexual dynamics to just receive. Or we expect that our partner will just anticipate our needs, or they'll know what to do, they'll know which buttons to push. That's not how sex works. It's not about pushing buttons. What feels good fluctuates moment to moment, and it's this constant feedback loop. And so if you want to have amazing sex with your partners, you must be connected to your body. You must understand your body so that you know what you like. And the best way to practice that is by masturbating, by having sex with yourself often. And often can mean different things to different people. That's something you can list as one of your needs. What does often look like to you? But I will say, especially if you're in a relationship, a romantic relationship with someone else, it is still so important not to lose that sexual connection with yourself. So for myself, I have set a benchmark of masturbating anywhere between 4 times and 8 times per week. And this is not like a hard rule that I must masturbate 4 to 8 times a week. No, that is not the idea of the stability wheel. The idea of the stability wheel is to just give you a general idea of what are your needs and how far away or close are you to meeting your needs. So for me, that range of 4 to 8 times per week, it's just the right balance of not trapping myself into a tiny box, but also giving me enough information to go off of so I can notice when something is out of balance. For example, if I'm masturbating less than 4 times a week, it's great feedback to me that something is out of balance. It presents an opportunity for me to look at the other categories of the stability wheel and see, where else am I out of balance? What is affecting my sex drive? Because I generally have a very high sex drive. So please don't compare your needs to my needs, because literally they're going to vary from person to person. Everybody has a different relationship with sex. But yeah, it could indicate maybe I have not prioritized enough time with myself, quality time with myself. Or on the other end of the spectrum, if I'm masturbating more than 8 times a week, which is the upper limit of my range, maybe it's indicating to me that I have a lot of stress going on in my life. Because for me, when I'm stressed out, sex is a really helpful way to release some tension from my body. This is not true for everybody. It literally varies from person to person. Don't compare yourself to me. Some people have the opposite response with stress, where their body shuts down sexually. It's all valid. There's no right or wrong way to exist. Being a human is a very, very expansive experience, and it's going to be different for everybody. Another place to look when identifying your sexual needs is how often do you need to have sex with other people in your life in order to feel like you're in balance? So, before you even begin to identify your sexual needs with other folks, it is so important to get back to basics and identify for yourself what sex means. The heterocapitalist patriarchy has a very narrow definition of sex. It is not real. It is a social construct. So, like, if you choose to relate to this definition of sex as empowering, you're an autonomous being and you can choose that. In my experience, relating to the heterocapitalist patriarchal definition of sex has been very limiting and very disempowering. So, the heterocapitalist patriarchy defines sex as penetration between a penis and a vagina. In my experience, sex is a huge, expansive category, and I could go deep into this, but this is not what this video is about. I've facilitated an entire class around this, a 6-week class called Empowered Sexuality, that goes into the depths of what does it look like to feel sexually liberated, to relate to sex in a way that is outside of these systems of oppression that have socialized you to really limit yourself and cling to scarcity. You can stay posted for that. I have an intention of publishing an online class that can be accessible, like kind of at your own pace. I'll let you know when it gets released. In this moment of time, it is not released yet, but depending on when you watch this video, it might be released, so I'll just keep you posted. Okay, great. So define what sex means to you. First step, great, wonderful. Second step, when you're thinking about how often do you need to have sex with other people, I want to just acknowledge that we're living in a pandemic and the barriers to connecting with other folks feel higher than normal. It just is what it is. It can feel frustrating. That's the reality we're living in right now. And so when you're identifying your needs, I want to remind you that it has nothing to do with the circumstances outside of you. So for example, let's say you're on a road trip and you're in the car, there's no restaurants nearby for hours, but you're hungry. Your need to eat food does not have anything to do with the proximity of restaurants to you. You still have a need to eat. Your body's letting you know. So when you're thinking about sex, think about in your ideal world, like, yeah, how many times a week would you be having sex? It could be that you might share a bed with a romantic partner, which, like, I do not recommend, and you can read my blog to understand why, particularly the blog post, What is the Relationship Escalator? But if you are sharing a bed because it's super duper normalized in this culture, it might be that you feel pressured almost every night to have sex with your partner, because there's this expectation that that is your role to, like, fulfill their sexual needs. Again, I do not recommend this setup. It is a recipe for disaster, but it's really important to identify in your ideal world, what would it look like? Like, how often would you be having sex with another person? And it could be a single person, it could be multiple people. For me, I just have like once to twice per week. That feels like a good balance. And it doesn't mean that that's what's actually happening for me. In fact, right now, it's clear to me that I'm feeling under-resourced in the sexual category. And a lot of that has to do with a freaking pandemic, but at the very least, the stability wheel is such a helpful tool. So, like, if I do just, like, notice resentment, for example, come up with one of my partners around not having sex, I can just point to my stability wheel and be like, aha, like, my resentment is a reflection of my unmet needs. It has nothing to do with you because it is not your responsibility to fulfill my needs. We have sex depending on where our desire and capacity overlaps, and that's not always compatible. It's very fluid. So, yeah, it's a lot of expectations to put on a single person, and that is not what I'm committed to as a relationship anarchist. So if I start to feel sexual frustration, it's super helpful information for me to, like, point to my stability wheel and be like, aha, yes, I'm having less sex than what I'm actually needing to have. And so I am feeling off balanced. And so I am feeling this like tension growing in my body, but it is not my partner's responsibility. It is helpful information for me so I can source my needs where it does overlap with somebody's capacity and desire. It could be anybody. Another place to look is what quality of sex do you need to feel in balance? And you can think of this as a menu. There are many types of sex to have. There's what I would call mechanical sex, where you're like, okay, I just need to give myself an orgasm in 2 minutes because I need to feel this release of tension. You know, just get the job done. That's chill. There's no shame in that. Like, sometimes that's what hits the spot. Sometimes that's what you need. Maybe you're having a long day after work and you're just like holding all this stress from the day and you need to just freaking let it out. Like, let it out. Yay. Maybe you need that a couple times a week, or maybe you need it every day as like a post-work ritual. Yummy, yummy. What a delicious way to finish the workday. That's what I'm talking about. Or maybe you have like a strong need to have emotionally connective sex. So, you know, like for some folks, especially folks who are socialized male, not for all people socialized male, but especially for like cis straight guys. Um, for for a lot of folks who are socialized male, especially the cis straight dudes, they tend to lean towards like the mechanical type of sex. Like they just want to stick it in, pull it out, and like orgasm, and they're like, "Yay, done!" And they, unfortunately, with the way that the patriarchy socially conditions folks, is they just kind of like tap out and don't give a fuck afterwards. You know. Um, I just want to acknowledge that I have some trauma with the patriarchy. I'm sure there's a whole club of us that have trauma with the patriarchy. So my information is not unbiased. I have some pain that is showing up right now. For some folks, they have a preference for the mechanical type of sex, and some folks, what sex means to them is an opportunity to connect emotionally, you know? So if that's a strong need for you, that's important to identify, because what if your partner is having this need for a release and they're putting that expectation on you, and then you feel this pressure to have sex with them all the time? And so maybe you're even confused about your own sexual needs because yeah, you feel expected to fulfill their sexual needs and you're neglecting your needs around emotionally connective sex. And if that's the case, I'm so biased towards queer love. Sorry, not sorry. I just am. Yeah. And like, not to commodify everyone, like, it's not a monolith, but in my experience, queer relationships have been so expansive for me in that there are no assumptions about what is the role or what is the unspoken script that we're playing out together. Yeah, and when I have sex with queer folks who have been socialized as female, there tends to be a way bigger emphasis on the emotional connectivity part. And so for me, that's a huge need. In fact, yeah, it is very rare that I will have sex with someone who identifies as a cis man. It's just not hitting the spot for me. There's a level of emotional disconnect that I don't even blame them for. I think they're victims of the patriarchy where they get so socialized into suppressing their emotions so deeply that even if they have the desire to connect, it's just so muffled down there that it's just harder. It's not true for all the dudes in the world, no. But the way that systems of oppression work, in the way that we are socialized, and the way that we interact with each other, it's just easier for me to seek out queer people as sexual partners who have been socialized female. Okay, and then there's also sex as ritual, sex as a spiritual experience. I have mixed feelings about using the word tantra because in the Western world, there's more of an emphasis on neo-tantra, where like this like deeply spiritual, ancient Indian tradition has kind of been fetishized into like only looking at sex, and there's like pros and cons to that, but I just want to name that Tantra is like a general philosophy of like tuning in to the energy of oneness. And there's so many portals, like music is a portal, nature is a portal, sex is a portal. So there's so many different kinds of sex that you can have. And for me, having spiritually connecting sex is what I would say is definitely a need for me. And that one is more special and sacred. So maybe that one's like once a month, and it could be with myself or with other folks. It doesn't matter. But that's another place to look. Since I'm making this video specifically for folks who are unlearning hierarchies from their relationships, I want to open you up to the idea that you can both have emotionally connective sex with people you are not living with people you're not nesting with, like in pop culture, within systems of oppression, right? The social scripts that we follow. There's this dichotomy between hookups, like hookup culture being like emotionally unattached, disconnected, commodifying bodies, which in my experience has just added more trauma to my sex life. And then there's like on the other end of that dichotomy, there's like the loving, committed relationship that where there is like care. But I would just like to invite you into the wild fucking idea that it is possible to have both. Mm, mm, feel hesitant to say the word casual, but I will just say it for now. It's not perfect. It's very possible to have emotionally connective, casual sex. It's a matter of identifying your needs and clearly articulating that to your play partner. And yeah, holding your freaking boundaries. If that person is not aligned with your needs, definitely don't hook up with that person. But for example, like I will often put out a post on like dating apps, or there's this app called Lex, which is geared towards lesbian, but it's also inclusive of trans folks. But it's this queer app where you can like post general things you're looking for, and then people can respond to the post. It'll just like appear in the feed, and so I'll post like looking for a play partner, someone who's like emotionally present, sexually liberated, into these specific kinks. So there are so many opportunities for you to meet your sexual needs that live outside of these binaries of like casual sex and committed relationship. No, you can have both at the same time. You can have delicious, fulfilling, connective sex without needing to enmesh your entire life with someone. Sex can be a very taboo and triggering topic. It can be, yeah, something that feels intimidating. So, there's only so much information I can give you. If you need additional help or if you feel stuck on something, leave a comment and I will help you out. I hope this video helps you identify at least some of your sexual needs and gives you a solid starting place. And remember that the stability wheel is a living document. So, it's okay not to perfectly know what are your sexual needs. Most people don't know, but this is a great opportunity to practice. It's a starting point, and, it's trial and error. Just like put down an intention, like for example, 48 times a week I will masturbate, and that's how I know I'm in balance. Okay, and then maybe you try that out and you're like, actually it turns out I feel in balance and I'm masturbating way less than that. So adjust it as you go, and yeah, with time you'll just get to know yourself better and better, and it will get more and more specific and more accurate. Yay!